We're going live in a minute, you know.
No, it's right now live.
Oh, sorry.
They already did?
It says 0-0.
Oh, well then. You ready?
Temperature first. I'm
Oh,
live.
I'm hot right now.
Easy there, no self-praise.
No, like mad, Horizon mad.
Okay, so we're going to call to order the Board of Adjustment, December 16th, 2020. Roll call.
Mr. Hrbovsky,
Here.
Ms. Turner,
Present.
Mr. Eisner,
Present.
Mr. Bouris,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Rich, Ms. Simon.
Okay, we're going to go to the quasi-judicial announcement and swearing in of speakers. Do we have our attorney online?
I am. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, we
Yes.
can.
Perfect. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Adjustment acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the commission is required by law to then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinance, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. Are there any members of the board wishing to disclose any ex parte communications or conflicts of interest this evening? Okay, seeing as there are none, anyone wishing to speak, if you could please raise your right hand to be sworn in. All right, and do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, so sworn.
Okay, so now we're going to move to application. Oh, that one's out. We're going to application number 2145, variance to reduce the required side yard setback.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and do a quick staff presentation. Okay. The subject property is located off of Wideview Avenue. It's outlined here in yellow on the screen. The property, as well as all surrounding properties, is zone R100, which is a single-family residential zoning district. The applicants are at this time proposing to construct a new single-family home on the property. The minimum side setback requirements for the R100 zoning district are a minimum of 10 feet for each side and a minimum of 25 feet for a total combined side yard. The proposed layout of the home does meet the minimum 10 feet on both the north and south side property lines. However, it does not meet the total combined 25-foot minimum. Therefore, the applicants are here today to request a reduced side yard, total combined side yard to 22 feet 7 inches. This is a look at the proposed site layout. As you can see from the north property line, there is a 12-foot side setback, and from the south property line, there's a 10-foot 7-inch side setback. One thing to note about this property is it was originally platted back in 1925 as part of the Sunset Hills subdivision with a lot width of only 65 feet. The current lot width for the R100 zoning district is 75 feet, making this lot a legally non-conforming lot of record, and it's 10 feet narrower than what would be required today. This is an overview of your review standards. Staff has indicated that 4 of the 5 have been met, with number 3 not being met. However, it is of staff's opinion that is the variance that's requested is minimal in order to construct a home on a legally non-conforming lot of record that is 10 feet narrower than is required. So based upon this, staff would recommend approval of this request. And I will go ahead and turn it back over to the board.
Thank you. So I guess we're going to the applicant.
How about
Is that you, sir?
staff? How about we ask staff questions?
I think we're doing that afterwards. Didn't we talk about this? Where we start asking questions of the applicant? Yeah.
No
So
worries.
it's a new order. Sir, yes, you rise to the podium and, that one. And please state your name and your address for the record, and we're happy to hear what you have to say.
Jason Harger. I reside at 734 Loquat in Tarpon Springs right now.
Thank you.
So, yes, I mean, I think she spelled it out, and as long as you want to approve it, I don't have much to say, but I live across the street from where they just developed that whole 50 or 60 homes. So I live off of Loquat right now, and in that 2 blocks from where I'm asking to build a house right now.
Okay.
And I know that they changed all those lots to meet the old requirements. So I didn't think it was out of question to ask for the same thing. So that's why I'm here also.
Understood. Do we have any questions for the staff or the applicant? Mr. Eisner.
Staff, how did we come up with the approval or the recommended approval? Because in it, it states that you feel that it should be approved. So I'm curious what evidence was provided that makes that happen.
So staff is of the opinion that based on this being a legally non-conforming lot of record, it's narrower than what you would be required today in the R100 district. So that takes away 10 feet from a lot where the side setbacks that are required, a total combined yard of 25 feet is taken into consideration. So with it being a narrower lot, it is a legal lot of record. That is why we had the opinion that it would be an approval.
Are there any other lots and homes on that block that fit within that amount?
Well, what I can say, along Wideview Avenue, all those lots are 65 feet, so they're also legally non-conforming. I did a brief analysis of those properties to see if they were able to meet the setback requirements. When looking at all the homes that are constructed on that road, not every lot is developed. There is an average, looks like total combined side yard of 23.4 feet, so that is less than the 25 minimum. And then the home on the adjacent property to the south, their combined side yard is only 20 feet. So it looks like most homes that are constructed on that neighborhood have had reduced setbacks.
Okay, because I'm one of the things that I like to look at is that the need for the size. And on the comment here, it says that so that we may add 2.5 feet that allows for a double car garage. And honestly, that is not, in my opinion, a necessity for building a house. So that's why I'm asking the question. I understand that, there is a 10-foot shortage on it. But when you buy a property, you have to kind of know that you're buying a sacrificed size. So, it's like the old saying, and I don't mean it to be in any way disrespectful, but you can't buy something and expect to build a mansion on it. And I mean, I'm over dramatizing it a little bit, but so I'm really looking for the applicant to explain to us why this is so much a necessity. Because honestly, the rule, whether I agree with the rule or not, and most of the time I don't, it's hard for me to vote for something when I am looking at it and it clearly states that if it doesn't meet 3, it's a no-go. And this really doesn't meet number 3 at all and should be a no-go. But at the same time, I'm a reasonable person, live in the town, and if I was up there, I understand why he's asking for it. So I just don't understand if there's any other reason that you have other than the garage.
Oh, no, that was the basis of design, but so that 2 feet make a lot of difference for me for the appearance and the function of the house and the space. But when I purchased the property, they were already developing across the street. I talked to other people and they had non-conforming lots and got to get the variance for the side setback. So if it wasn't ever granted, I don't think I would have bought the property. I agree. But since it was already happening across the street from my house 50 times, I didn't think it was out of question. And when I came down, they knew it was a non-conforming lot. And I walked in there and they said, I don't see why you shouldn't get it, so I based all that information on and purchased the property. So I didn't think it would be out of question to ask for it.
So are you looking to do 2 single garages, or are you looking to make one side a double garage? I didn't
Yeah,
follow.
one side a double garage and then, but I'm not going to do the big stair tower coming up. I want to make because the flood elevation is about 3 feet above the floor of the elevation that's there. So I want to have 3 steps and then my front door. So it doesn't look like a typical stilt home where you have the big stairs coming away from the home.
Mhm.
So it's just adding that couple of feet, changes the whole appearance of what I'm able to build there.
So are you looking to make 2 single garage entrances or a single and a double?
A single and a double. Because it's the whole ground floor is basically a garage stilt home except for the stairs. And it was so, and I'm just saying, that's why I drew it that way. And I just, if you're making a narrow home, that changes the whole layout inside on the second floor or the living space also.
So my other question then would be, and again, this is is there any other homes on that block with the 3 garages like that?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, further down the street. Yeah.
I'm only bringing this up because it's a small property. And believe me, I understand what you're trying to do. It's just, you could easily, are you saying you could easily build this with 2 single garages?
Yeah. I mean, it would have to re-engineer it, redraw it and do but I did not think this would be an issue. And I even talked to there's a neighbor that did build and he had 2 single garages and he had his house originally drawn 2 feet bigger. And he didn't come to get a variance. And he said, if I would have done it again, I would come down and get a variance. And that's the neighbor right adjacent to my property. Because he was debating whether to make it the garage smaller and then make the house bigger and then have the cantilever on the house. But there was a lot of structural engineering that would have cost more. So.
See,
Bouris?
Go ahead.
let me explain something to you. We sit on a board here.
Mhm.
And again, no disrespect, staff can make any recommendation that they want. But in the carrying out of what we do, we're kind of held to the 5 criteria unless you can just give us some reason that is more than I'd like to have a 3-car garage versus a 2-car garage. And believe me when I tell you, I'm not honestly trying to pick at all on this. It's just when I looked at it, that was the first thing I said. That's why I have to ask you the question, because it really wasn't specific. Whether, you said you wanted a double garage, and you could have a double garage if you were to shift things over and not have a garage on one side. So I'm trying to be able to give you what you are looking for, but I need a real reason to be able to override the criteria that's in front of me.
My only defense is that I'm not impeding less than the 10 feet that's required on either side. So I'm not impeding in any neighbor having an issue with them. I was at every meeting that happened with that subdivision across the street from me. So whenever they sat up here, and we had even the old mayor that was coming in here and saying, you can't spot zone either. You can't pick where you want to do it and where you don't want to do it. So once you allow it, you have to allow other people to do it.
That's not how we operate. You can have right next door to you the exact same lean on side yard like that.
Yeah.
And you could come in front of this board, whether I'm here or anybody else, and not get the same thing that somebody else had. And we've had that numerous times. We're not allowed to look at other properties. I'm allowed to ask you if there are other properties like yours, but I'm not honestly, if somebody has a 6-foot fence and somebody wants to make a 6-foot fence where it's only allowed a 4, they don't get it. unless they can prove why they need it. That's what I'm asking you. I'm trying to find out why you would need to have a two-car garage at the same time as have a single garage.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of order.
Yes.
When a member of this board speaks for every one of us or for themselves,
Himself.
then the we and us doesn't belong in this conversation.
Yeah, that's, pause. What would you like to ask, Mr. Bouris?
Making that point, to go to the next point, the required side yard setback is 10 feet. How do we come up with 22.7 to 25? If the side yard setback is 10 feet, 10 and 10 is 20, where did the 25 comes from? And the gentleman has a problem at 22.7.
Can the city staff address Mr. Bouris's question, please?
Yes, I can provide a little clarification. For the R100 zoning district, there is a minimum side setback of 10 feet on each side, but there's also a minimum combined side yard setback of 25 feet. So whatever setbacks you propose on the two sides, they need to at least equal 25 feet. In this case, they don't meet that 25 foot. They're at 22 feet, 7 inches.
Okay, when this lot was set up in the 20s, 30s, whenever, it was set up and it was a lot that was, anyone can be able to build a home, right? As the rules changed, or as the laws changed, then now supposedly this lot is illegal, he cannot build it.
Well, not necessarily illegal, but this property was
Doesn't
platted
conform.
back in 1925, so it had different standards in place at that time. So as times change and rules change, the current zoning has different standards.
Okay, then in that case, this setback of 2 feet and 3 inches, it's not a major point, and the city is recommending to approve it. So what is the
Yeah, so it's a 2-foot something inch.
2 feet, 3 inches?
Right. Mr. Davis, do you have any questions or comments?
Obviously in the newbie, but the one concern I have, being in a few meetings here, if we continue to approve this and that, it seems to me like we may be setting a precedence. Or is that, am I wrong or right?
Well, we're not.
Mr.
allowed-
Chairman, can I speak to that briefly?
Please.
And it's been mentioned a couple of times, both by the applicant here tonight and for your edification, and the board is well aware that whatever happens with this particular application does not set a precedent for any future applications. And just as Mr. Eisner was pointing out, what happened on past applications does not inform what's happening on this application. The criteria that are set forth in your code, the applicant is responsible for providing evidence to prove that their individual property meets those criteria. So it is per application. Every time they come forward, the applicant has the burden of providing that information and showing that based on their individual property that they meet those criteria. So no precedent will be set whatsoever.
Thank you.
Mrs. Turner.
Thank you. So if I may ask the applicant, it sounds like when you were addressing it earlier,
Yeah.
that when you were looking to buy the property, you did your homework. You were asking the neighbors, and did you go to the city? Did you talk to planning and zoning?
Yes.
And what was the counsel that they provided you?
They basically said, that pretty much a formality, and you should be able to get it. You just have to apply and go through the process, and they say it shouldn't be no. I mean, they didn't say yes or no. They just said you shouldn't have any issues.
So staff said you shouldn't have any issues because of, did they say why?
I don't want to put words in their mouth. I don't remember.
Right.
I
Oh,
just
I
had the
understand. I
feeling
don't want to
that
put you in that.
when I left, I said, well, I feel comfortable doing that, and I know they just did it across the street, and I know. So no, if I was the first one to ask, I don't even think I would have bought the property when I looked around and didn't see it happening. So I would have tried to buy the lot next door and try to get 2 lots so I could do what I wanted.
All right. You did your homework.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I did.
And in addition, and this might be a question combined for the staff as well, are there any other needs for any other variances, things like, sidewalk, the height? I know those are common things that come up sometimes when we're talking about new construction?
There are no additional variances requested and nothing that has come up so far in this review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess we're going to move to public comment. Do we have any raised hands in the virtual audience?
If anyone online would like to speak on this item, please raise your hand and you'll be allowed in to talk. And we do not have any raised hands at this time.
Okay,
I got a question.
please.
Were there any letters sent? What do I ask? Were any letters sent out to the community? Did any letters come back?
We did provide the public notice and we did not receive any letters.
Okay.
Okay, we're closing public comment.
Chris,
Yes.
I did want to make a little clarification. The whole reason for a 25 foot while having 10 on each side is for the ability to place the home if you want either 5 feet from, 10 feet from one side and 15 from the other, or vice versa. Yeah, that's the purpose of the 25 feet. So I did want to make mention of that.
Understood. So now we call for the applicant rebuttal and board questions to applicant.
Did we just do
This
that?
is a new, I know, this is a new procedure. So then we bring it back for discussion. Do you guys need to talk about this anymore? Do we need to belabor this point, or are you ready to go for a motion?
I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Just enjoy living in Tarpon.
Thank you, sir. You can have a seat, and I guess we're going to go for a motion.
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Davis,
Speak in the microphone.
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Is that approved?
or no?
Are you approving or
Or
you're
no,
not?
or yay or nay?
Yes, I approve.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Mr. Eisner,
No?
Mr. Bouris,
Yes.
Ms. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Hrbovsky,
Yes. Okay, sir, it's all yours.
Best wishes.
Okay, so now we are going to approve minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Eisner,
Yes?
Mr. Bouris,
Yes.
Ms. Turner,
Yes.
Mr. Hrbovsky.
Yes. Any staff comments?
The only comment that I have is you may have seen on the desk that we have the 2021 meeting schedule. It has all of the boards schedule on there, but I highlighted the Board of Adjustments for you. And we can also send this out in an email to you guys as well. But other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Board comments?
I have a
Yes, please.
comment. I believe that this was a good exercise we had tonight. I really appreciated Mr. Eisner's comments and perspective, which is why we have this board, to where we all come at things with different eyes, which is what makes the board what I think of value to the city. So I do have a question, thinking of our applicant here, putting myself in his shoes. Like we said, he did his homework and he did what he thought, he talks to the neighbors, he sees the developments, he's like, okay, everyone's happening. Thinking logically, if you put yourself in his shoes, and then he even took the extra step and went to the city and said, I'm looking to purchase this property. Can I build this? And he received the answer, shouldn't be a problem. I understand this. So then, because it's going to come on our board, and our board, which asks very good and valid questions. So here is a thought for our city staff, who y'all know I have the utmost respect for, because we're just here volunteering. You are the professionals. This is your career path. You have the education and training and commitment to this. What happens when he's not the property owner at this time, so he can't say, I want to buy this property. I see that my plans for it, if I were to purchase it, would require a variance. I don't own the property, so I can't apply for a variance, correct?
The owner, so correct me if I'm wrong, Erica, but they can apply for a variance, but the owner would have to sign off on the application that they are okay moving forward with that. The variance would lie with the property, not the
Right.
ownership. So they could potentially go through that avenue.
Okay.
Correct.
And I appreciate that clarification, because as we know, which is why it's so important, which, Mr. Eisner, again, wisely pointing out the need for the minimum 10, combined 25, because it gives you the padding for what's happening on either side. We can appreciate that as homeowners. So I'm wondering, not to micromanage the staff, if we could have some sort of guideline, documentation, procedure that when a homeowner or a property owner or a prospective property owner approaches the city and says, I'm looking to buy this, what can I do? What are my options? Instead of just that verbal, yeah, you should be cool. The other guys did it. I don't see a problem. It's a couple feet. Roll the dice. That's a big dice roll. He bought the property. He, got with an architect. He's got thousands and thousands of dollars invested in this. And we very well could have voted no. And it would break my heart that someone who's done something, did his homework, would lose tens of thousands of dollars on this. If we could say, here is clearly outlined, saying, I can't tell you what to do, however, I strongly urge you to go that route, like you had said, of saying, I want to put in an application for a variance, understanding the current property owner has to sign off on it, because I'm thinking if I was in his shoes and was counseled in such a manner by the city, I would go to, the property owner or my attorney or real estate agent, whomever, and say, I want to put that this sale is contingent upon this variance being approved, and he needs to sign off on this timeline, et cetera. Again, I didn't go to law school, deferring to our fantastic counsel on that. Of course, we can't require anyone to do that, because you could have provided him that wonderful counsel and he'd be like, yeah, it's cool, I'll be fine. And we could have voted no. And then he's out how much? So just a suggestion.
Sure. No, I appreciate those comments. I can't necessarily speak to this specific instance, but I know in our office, we do try to guide applicants with the options they have to move forward. It's pretty clear that when there is a set of criteria for these variances that you need to meet, you have to provide, your answer and your hardship on your application. So like I said, I can't speak specifically to what was said to this applicant, but
Of course.
I know that, you could take things anyway, but no, absolutely, that we can be very clear with
Right.
people, prospective home buyers or property owners.
Because there is the human factor. And I know that this happened before you were a member of the staff. So you don't, have that history, but I was just thinking to cover all of our bases, the city staff, our board, the homeowner, et cetera. So just my 2 cents.
Mr. Eisner.
I'm going to use the word we again, but I'm speaking only for myself, as I always do, because I speak usually for no one else but myself. But there was no hardship in this, and that's the issue of why I voted no. A hardship is a situation where, I don't know, a tree is with a eagle in it can't be moved, or the person needs to widen a doorway because he's got a handicapped type person. That's a hardship. A hardship to me is not to make it a 3-car garage on a non-conforming lot. And I don't agree with the vote the other way, but I knew which way the vote was going to go, so I was happy to vote my way because I'm not breaking the rules of the criteria. And that's simple, cut and dry. This was not a hardship. He didn't prove it was a hardship. And that's why I originally asked why staff agreed to make this an approval. We have to have all 5 criteria unless it's truly a hardship. We can't acknowledge if it's money. We have situations that come across the board where somebody needs to lean on a setback because there's a pool blocking. They don't want to have to take the pool out and move the pool. But we could actually say, no, you have to take the pool out and move you can't move closer to the street. So that's a hardship that I could see. This one, I was hoping that he would tell me he's got a mechanical degree and he needs one of the garages for his, to make a living, and the other two to put him and his wife's car in there. Would have been more of an explanation than, hey, I asked and they said it was no big deal. That to me was not sufficient to give a variance, because the variance is not just for him, it stays with the property. So that's why I ask, staff to really be careful about giving a approval prior to somebody giving you evidence. If, evidence is not non-conforming lot. We're going to be dealing with a lot of non-conforming lots. We really need evidence that it says that a normal house cannot be built. That's what it is. And a normal house can be built. It would be a two-car garage, one on each side. The fact that he doesn't want it to look a certain way with a certain staircase, I feel for him, but that's not what we have to consider. So,
Mr. Bouris, any comments?
I will say this. If we believe everyone that comes in here, what they say happened a month ago, 3 months ago, before they bought the lot, we have to stay away from that and stay within the guidelines. But when you go from 25 feet to 22.7, that's not a disaster for the city because we have so many non-conforming lots. And if we start excluding and applying 100% all the 5 criteria, half of the city won't build. So,
Can I just piggyback on that too? Y'all need to be applying all 5 criteria all the time. Just legally for the record, it just, y'all know, you make your decisions based on the evidence in front of you, but there's no, yeah, it kind of meets the criteria or it might make it there. If it doesn't meet it, you can't grant the variance. So just, and most of you know that, but for the benefit of Mr. Davis, who's new to the board.
but the city already took that number 3 criteria out of the equation.
And I've said that before, that the city staff recommendation is just that. It's a recommendation. Ultimately, you don't have to go the way that the city goes. The applicant has the burden of providing the evidence to you, and you are required to take that evidence and to take into account what the city says. You can use, them for expertise as well, and use that to make your own decision. So, we've had that conversation too, where just because the city says yes, doesn't mean that you have to say yes. If you find that the evidence doesn't meet those criteria, period, then you say no. I mean, you're legally bound to do that based on the competent, substantial evidence presented.
Then why the city is having that freedom to do something like that, let's say? Just leave it alone. Let us decide about it.
Well, the staff is providing you with information so that you can make an informed decision. They're making a recommendation one way based on their expertise. The applicant has the burden of providing information, and then then you get to take that information and apply it to the criteria and determine if it's been sufficient or not. But the staff is there for to provide you a recommendation. You don't have to go after what that recommendation is if you feel that the applicant hasn't provided sufficient information.
Mr. Davis, any comments?
I'm all set, thank you. I
Oh.
appreciate all the comments. 'Cause I'm
All
learning.
right. Beautiful. So it looks like our next meeting, January 27th, 2021. Wow. Do we know if we have any applications for that?
We do.
Okay, so I guess
Yes.
we'll see you.
non-conforming? Just kidding.
We'll see.
We'll drum up one for you, just for you.
All right. And with that, it is 7:34. We are adjourned.
I think he beat your record, no?
No, mine, was it a 14-minute or